Hello. So this week's content is inspired by the COP26 resolution in Glasgow to end deforestation by 2030. On Monday, the world leaders decided to commit $19 billion towards ending deforestation. So this is something we cover on our platform in our resource and biodiversity conservation event type, and that's going to be under the deforestation topic. So this is something that companies don't really talk about too much. It affects specific industries, mostly being agriculture and consumer goods. You can see here not a lot of mentions for some of these companies. One of the better actors in this space has been Unilever. They do have some measures and commitments in place. Let's see. Yeah, and they also are working with this organization, Leaf, who are a forest finance kind of nonprofit that is working with a bunch of different companies, not just Unilever, to finance reforestation and forest protection. They are also working with Google using satellite imagery to help fight deforestation, and they've committed to a deforestation-free supply chain by 2023. So this is 7 years earlier than what the climate agreement in Glasgow is aiming for. So in this regard, they're probably the best committed in this space. HP is also doing some things they weren't mentioned in the content, but they are doing. They have a partnership with the World Wildlife Foundation. And then if we look at competitors, Procter and Gamble, they have positive sentiment, but when you look at it, it's actually they're being called out that they're not doing enough. So they also have a commitment that they didn't reach in 2020, and there was a bit of a shareholder rebellion that happened. So that's an interesting juxtaposition with Unilever. Two very similar companies. One is doing better on deforestation. The Procter and Gamble, not so much, and they're experiencing some shareholder pushback in the past year or so. The other area besides consumer goods is the beef companies. So we look at JBS; they have a pretty low sentiment, and there's also Minerva is another one. But yeah, let's look at JBS because they have a lot of mentions here around deforestation. They're very outspoken on this issue, but they also have their fair share of negative press here, and there's a lot of accusations that they've been rebutting. So in general, the beef industry has been a driver in deforestation, and these are really the two main uh, main actors in this space. Marfrig was the other one. Not a lot of mentions, but pretty negative sentiment. So this is likely a topic that is going to be talked about more going forward, given the big spotlight that it's had this past week, and it's a fairly quick deadline too, 2030 for deforestation as compared to 2050 for net zero carbon emissions. So this is might see a lot more action in the next decade as they try to reach this goal. Yeah, so here we see the negative extraction about Marfrig, also a Brazilian meat producer like JBS. So these are some of the key problem areas. Um, that are going to need to be addressed going forward. And JBS in particular already had a cyber risk attack in over the summer. So they're facing issues on multiple fronts there. I don't know what the cybersecurity is like for Marfrig or some of these other meat producers. But deforestation is something that was put in the spotlight this week, and it's probably going to pick up in news coverage going forward. So this is something that we have coverage of. It'll be interesting to see going forward whether we pick up more on this topic, or if we're going to need to do some work to build out our content coverage of this. I suspect a little bit of both. Where this is a topic that hasn't really received a lot of mentions in the past, but as more people become interested in it, we might want to build out our model a little bit more on it as well.